Oh. Okay.
It's Maddie's birthday today, so I have to give her birthday hugs. Best way to spend a birthday. Code of Ethics.
That's great. Well, happy birthday. Yeah, here's your present. Now, see, that would work for my birthday, though, Natalie. I mean, if somebody said, hey, I've got something really special for you, then I'd be like, are you kidding? I'd probably,
Code of Ethics.
I'd probably tear up and, you know, it would be perfect.
Yeah.
So,
not Maddie, but she's glad to be here with you, Will. I promise.
That's great. Okay, so hey, I'm just going to remind everybody, welcome everyone to the Code of Ethics class. So I appreciate you being here. Let's just go through the requirements again really quick. You need to have your participant manual. Looks just like that. So make sure you're ready to take some notes, and we'll follow along in there right through the slides. Also, make sure your video's on and you have the ability to communicate and unmute yourself. So please watch the background noise, guys. Be careful. I think we're pretty practiced now at Zoom. I wish we were all together. I really do. Today would have been a little more fun if we could have been together. I'd like to also, so look, just want to thank everybody who obviously makes this possible. I'll start at the top of the list. This is the NAR Code of Ethics class, and NAR's attorneys wrote the class today. So all the PowerPoint slides, there's only 74 slides. So that's all you got to endure. And then you can be a realtor for another 3 years. Okay. So 74 slides. We're not going to go through all the pages. Thank goodness. We're not going to go through every slide, but we are going to emphasize a few that I feel like need to have some additional attention. I'm joined today by our attorney, Mark O'Brien. Say hi, Mark.
Hello, everyone.
So now we know that we got to really pay attention because, you know, the attorney's watching. I'm, of course, Will Cooper, the principal broker of Berkshire Hathaway. This class, guys, will also be made available to some outside of our brokerage at a time in the future. So we want to recognize that, hey, you may not be a part of the Berkshire family, but we welcome you to the class. Also, thanks, Joe, for helping all the technology come together. If you were an early attendee to this class, you knew that we were having some technical difficulties. See, Amber's going, yeah. It happens to everybody, but we're up and going and grateful for that. And Angie Larkin for getting everybody in here. And oh my goodness. Matter of fact, I think I have, oh, did I show that earlier? Okay, I must have gotten rid of it. But you guys wouldn't have believed how many people were clamoring to get into the class. It took an awful lot of work. It's basically all we did yesterday. Also, this class is also made possible by our partnership with Dan Naylor, who is the owner of the Real Estate Institute, which is a local Utah school that will purpose this class for online CE. Okay, so here, if you can see the, look, you guys see that behind me, okay, what I've written on the board? Okay, yeah, like right there. Okay, so look, session 1, we're gonna go through parts 1 and 4, and then we'll take a 10-minute break about 10:30. And then the second session of the class will be sections 5 and 6. And that's the class. During the class, we've got some objectives. So let's go to page 1. Here are objectives on page 1. I'm going to talk this out before I go to the PowerPoint slide. So I think we could probably add a few objectives to this, can't we, Mark? We could probably have a little higher bar to reach than just what NAR said we should do.
Definitely.
Okay. So today, you can see that we're going to review, obviously, we're here to talk about the Code of Ethics. How many of you have taken this class before? I mean, I know many of you have. How about this? How many have taken this class 10 times? There you go. You know, because if you've taken it more than 10 times. So I think today, I'm not really approaching this like you've never seen the Code of Ethics, okay? I'm not going to approach it that way. We're going to approach it like we've been around the block a few times, so let's pull out the things that need the emphasis. If you glance through those objectives, could we write one down I think is important? And I wrote this up on the board. So I'm going to try to keep track today of what we could do to improve. And, you know, this is why I get excited about classes, because now's the time for you to reflect on what you can do to better your business. You're going to get ideas and as we go through these. And so I'm just going to challenge you to write them down. Write them down, make a list, and let's do that on page 1. So you'll flip across and you can write down some ideas. So I wrote down personal improvement. How can I improve my business? Okay. Let me tell you what else is in store for today. So I've recorded a session with Lance Harrison, who is the attorney at the UAR. His specific role is to oversee arbitration and grievance committee. So I've got an interview with him that we'll play later, probably in about 45 minutes. Throughout the class, let me just show you that. I'm pivot my screen so you guys can see this. Throughout the class, we're going to do some magic tricks. No. These are not magic. During the class, we've got here, let me move my screen up so you can see it just a little bit better. So I've got some object lessons. So this is our first one, and then we'll do this one with the oranges. So 2 boxes and the oranges, and then these boundary lines. So that's why I said, John and Lance, you might be called on to be a participant. So sorry, because I'm going to need some help with that. So I hope that we can have some fun today. You know, I think it's impossible to learn anything if you're not having an enjoyable time. So, and I know this subject is probably not high on your list of things that you would say, woohoo, you know, I can't wait. You probably approach the day like, I have to, right? Like, I have to do this. I'm required to do this. So I get teased a lot for being overly excited about things, but it's something I did years ago to get my affirmation right, where I enjoy the things I have to do, you know, and it's served me well. So I hope that you can find something in this class today that will help you and better your profession. How does all that sound? That sounds like a lot, right? Good. Okay, so Joe, we're going to get ready for our first breakout in just a minute. I'm going to share my screen, everyone. So grab your participant manual and so yeah, welcome to the Code of Ethics. Okay, so we kind of went through our objectives already. There we go. So you should see that on page 1. And there's some more. And now we're going to talk about basically looking through, we're going to take this, we're going to do an icebreaker exercise where we're going to do a breakout, where we're going to take these statements. First of all, notice how many there are. There's 17. Why are there 17? Because there's 17 articles. Okay. So go to the back of your manual really quick, very back, follow along here. And you'll see that you've got the Code of Ethics in the back of your participant guide. And we're going to do this exercise where we match up statements like, number 1, make only truthful and objective statements. So we're going to match that with the article that corresponds with that statement. So what I was going to do here is, so pay close attention because it depends on what group you're in, okay? Go ahead on, in your book, let's see, do I have that list? Let's see, is it in your manual? It is, page 2, right? So on page 2, draw a line between 1 and 2. That would be group 1. And then 3 and 4 will be group 2. And then 5 and 6 will be group 3. Hey, Joe, can you make sure the breakout sessions are 8?
I'll get as close as I can.
Okay, so 8 groups, 8 groups, whoever's in 8 groups. Okay, and then the next one, 7 and 8 would be 4. You kind of get the idea here, guys. 9 and 10 is group 5. Hope you're following along, right? Okay, group 6 is 11 and 12. And group 7 is 13 and 14. And then group 8 will get the benefit of having 3 articles to match up, okay? So there you go, groups 1 through 8. So guys, we're going to go ahead and let me stop sharing for just a minute. We're going to do these. We're going to do this breakout exercise. The idea here is to get you generally familiar with the structure of the Code of Ethics, remind you how they're laid out. These simple statements match an article. I'm going to give you 10 minutes to do this, so feel free to dive into it. You only have 2 to match here, okay? So Joe, can you divide us up now? Are you ready for that? Okay, so guys, we're going to go ahead and jump in. Now, no sharing. Look, if you cheated and you have answers somewhere, no sharing them. Okay? Or if you pleaded with the instructor to get the answers, no cheating. Okay? All right. But go ahead and let's do the breakouts now, Joe. Okay, join. Okay.
Okay.
That worked great, Joe. Our group just took time off and made phone calls and
yeah, getting a little snack.
Yeah.
Sharing recipes.
Can we do that again?
Lance Nate. Oh boy. Okay. We still have a few coming back. So we'll get the hang of this. We'll do a few more of these breakouts, guys.
So will we be in the same groups again?
They can't. We can't automatically do that, but and I can't auto assign. I mean, I could take all 104 participants and manually put them all in a room, but by the time I got through that list, it would be 15 minutes before everyone got started. So
we had a fantastic group. We had Master Jedi Chrissy Robinson. So
you guys got lucky.
We got lucky. We're hoping we get her again for the next one. So who do I Venmo?
Right.
Me. Joe_Lowry. Just at Joe_Lowry. I'll do my best to see if I can get everyone back to the same rooms as much as possible. But then also, Will, just an announcement. Many people did not accept the room. So when you're assigned to a room, something will splash up on your screen that says go to room. So just make sure that you do that. And as Lance was saying, it's not the time to look down and, make phone calls instead of jumping in the room.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, welcome back, everybody, from your breakouts. I hope that went well. Like I said, we'll do a few in a minute. In my group, I had a great group, but what I'll remember from it is that Jim Duncan was in the meeting, and his wife is an investigator at the Division of Real Estate. So, like I said, there's always someone watching. So just so you know, and we joked about the fact that about 6 months or so ago, Karen called me on the phone, and I'm like, Karen, you can't just call people like that. You have to send out a warning text that says, I'm about to call you. You're not in trouble. Everything's fine. I said my heart dropped, and here we are. But anyway, thanks you guys for participating. I hope you learned something. We've got 17 articles that make up the Code of Ethics. It's interesting that each article is the only thing that you could ever be disciplined in breaking. So we have subsections of every article. I think you can see that, but there's 17 of them. So here, let me see how we did on the answers. I'll show my screen and see how each breakout session went with the answers. So, okay, everybody see that okay? Give me a head nod.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so there's the test. How did each group do? So, okay. There's your answers. So go ahead and write those in, guys, on that page. Make sure we've got the right page. I got a few books here open. What page is that, Mark, in the participant guide?
Participant guide. It is page 1 and 2.
Page 1 and 2?
Two, I'm sorry.
So page 2. Okay,
yes.
Go ahead and fill those in, guys. I'll read through them really quickly. So when you're making only truthful and objective statements, that's Article 15. Avoid the unauthorized practice of law. And it made me question the wording here. When is it authorized practice of law, Mark, for an agent?
Never.
Never. So there's never an authorized option here.
The only thing we're authorized to do is fill in forms that have been written by our company attorney or UAR or an industry.
That's right.
Right. So there's never an option where you can go get authority to practice law unless you go to law school, become an attorney. So number 3, participate in professional standards enforcement. This is Article 14. Number 4, keep client funds in separate escrow accounts. Number 4 is Article 8. And number 5, receive compensation from one party only with informed consent. And that is Article 7. Respect exclusive relationships, Article 16. Article 16 on 6. And then number 7, cooperate with other brokers, Article 3. 8, disclose present or contemplated interest in property. Okay, number 8 is Article 5. And then number 9, treat all parties honestly, Article 1. 10, arbitrate contractual disputes. Article 17. 11, avoid using epithet or slur against protected classes. That is Article 10. 12, make your true position known when presenting offers. That is Article 4. And then 14, get transactional details in writing. Article 9. 15, disclose pertinent facts is Article 2. 16, disclose financial benefits from recommending products or services, Article 6. And 17, paint a true picture in advertising. So there's your answers, guys. Okay. So let's go through. Look, I'm gonna go through a lot of different slides here pretty quickly. I want to talk about kind of the history of the Code of Ethics, remind everybody kind of when this all got started. The Code of Ethics actually was originally authored in the early 1900s. And you can kind of imagine what, life is like. I think that slide here with the picture, that's what life was like. Okay. When real estate was really born from a realtor standpoint. And there's the timeline. Now, since 1989, the Code of Ethics has gone through an amendment about every year, and I'm going to go through those. Every year we tend to kind of keep changing with the times. Let me stop sharing screen for just a second. And on the historical side, yeah, I'm geeking out here, but look what I have a copy of. It's the original Code of Ethics. Dun, 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 dun. Thought it was interesting. Apparently in those days, they're very sensitive to giving information about real estate over the phone. That's changed a little, right? Yeah, but they were concerned about the phone in 1913. So anyway, there it is, even stamped by the library. Isn't that kind of cool? So now you can say you've seen the original copy of the Code of Ethics. Now later on, real estate evolved, and some of you even used a phone like this. Matter of fact, how many of you ever owned a phone like that? Seriously, Lance? Mark? Bob?
US West Communications.
Oh, really? How cool were we when we carried this thing around? It weighs, it feels like it's almost 10 pounds. You might have forgotten how heavy that thing is.
They called it the brick.
Yeah, the brick phone. How many of you did real estate with one of these? Do you even know what this is?
Pager.
Pager. It's a beeper. I grew up with a dad who was a physician, and he was always on call. And when the pager went off, we knew we had to stop what we did so he could make a phone call. And wherever you were, you had to go find a pay phone so he could call into the hospital. That's how I originally came in contact with a pager. Anyone else do real estate with a pager? Raise your hand again with a pager. Oh my goodness. Okay. Now I'm going to go a little more modern, but also ask you, how many of you looked for real estate with one of these? So here's let's just, here's property. Remember you were told don't hand this out, right? Bob's going, yeah, you don't hand this out. But let's confess right now. How many of you ever handed, look, it's the Mark, do we have statute of limitations on handing the book out from like 15 years ago?
Probably not, no.
We're not going to be protected here if we confess on Zoom that we handed the book out?
Oh, no, you'll be protected. I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question. Okay.
So, all right, truthful, ethical, moral, value leading live agents. How many of you handed the book out? They're not going to confess. They're not going to do it.
Jim Oliver did.
You did? Okay, see that? There you go. He wins the contest for ethical.
Probably more for just being honest.
There you go, for being honest. Anyway, thanks.
Excuse me, Jim Oliver won that because he's old.
Oh. All right, thanks, Tom.
I'm sure it was an old copy though, like a month old or so it wasn't current information, right, Jim?
Yeah, that's right.
I have to tell you, it was a big deal to go down to the board every week and pick up your new MLS and hot sheets. You got to visit with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were some really good things about the interaction back then. I just thought it was interesting that in the Code of Ethics adopted in 1913, and they're worried about the phone, and look how we've worried about technologies all throughout our industry. As if new technologies come in, we've worried about it along the way. I mean, I do remember being told in a seminar that when the internet hit real estate, we'd be out of a job because property was so, information would be so easily accessible. And of course, here it is. It's very accessible. A lot of our buyers call us and say, hey, I know the house I want to buy. And we're really thriving. That's not always the case, but that was not the case, 15 years ago. Before Al Gore created the internet. so I couldn't help it. But anyway, so we've had some of these fears that have been unfounded. Let's go back to screen share and back to our book here. Thanks for playing along with that little history lesson, everybody. So the Code of Ethics has gone through a lot of different changes. And one thing has stayed the same here is this commitment to excellence. And there's some common themes here about, high standards. As I did some more research on the Code of Ethics, it's also kind of became a standard for a lot of other industries and other businesses as they were writing their policies. And it became a structure that a lot of other industries followed. And, look, I admit here, we might be giving ourselves a little bit more of a pat on the back, but that seemed to be a kind of a common theme, that we have something to be very proud of with the way the structure of the Code of Ethics is laid out. There have been, so let's go, let's talk about how it's all laid out. There's some themes here. Let me catch up with my book slide. Did we, okay. Man, my timing off a little bit here, guys. Sorry, let me come back a little bit to, we have a new Code of Ethics that I want you to draw your attention to. Will you go to the code? Let's go to 10.5. Let's go to 10.5. Is that where we're supposed to be, Mark? Keep me on track.
Yes, we have to cover 10.5, definitely.
Yeah, 10.5.
Slide 9, yeah.
Yeah, embracing change. Thank you. 10.5. Okay. This is where you have to have your, you've got to have your manual there, right? So does everyone have 10.5? Nod your head.
Yeah, this is an example of the code being an ever-evolving document that addresses changes in technology, as we've seen, and is addressing changes in social conditions as well. And that's what 10.5, I'm surprised it was introduced in 2020, and not sooner, but at least we have it now.
Thanks, Mark. Do you want to go ahead and read that one, Mark, and then go ahead with your explanation. And then when we're finished, let's talk about what hate speech is, epithet, slur, talk about what those are, because it's mentioned in the code there. So you want to just go through that one?
Sure. You want me to read 10-5?
Yep. Go ahead and 10-5.
Sure. Realtors must not use harassing speech, hate speech, epithets, or slurs based on race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, national origin, sexual orientation, or gender identity. And that was adopted November of 2020. Those categories, race, color, religion, sex, etc., are the protected classes, if you will. That's how we refer to them.
Hey, Will.
Yeah.
I'd like to comment that I think it's important for us when we're out there, because we all work with an array of clients, right, is to remind people that sellers now have recording devices and cameras in their homes, and they're hearing what we're saying. And we can't necessarily control what our clients say, but I think it's important to remember people can, even when no one's home, we may be heard or seen And that could apply here too.
That's an excellent point. If you'll remember, we added that specific point to the buyer due diligence checklist to put our buyers on notice that they can be recorded at any time they're visiting a seller property. So that's an excellent point. And this is an important thing to keep in mind, both in that context and just in the general context. We have very good relationship with clients, and there's opportunities when, whether it's an off-color joke or something along those lines, to violate this standard of practice in this ethical article. So it's a very important one.
So breaking that down, how do you qualify what hate speech is? So, I mean, look, guys, I had to look this, I'm glad it's actually here in our Mark and I have a little cheat sheet here, but I don't know the hate speech. I don't even know what an epitaph was. I don't even know what a slur is. So, I didn't even know there was a difference. What's hate speech, Mark?
Well, hate speech is defined by Webster, which is the old school Google, if you will. Hate speech is speech that is intended to insult, offend, or intimidate a person because of some trait.
Okay. So then what's an epitaph?
An epithet is a characterizing word or phrase accompanying or occurring in place of the name of a person or thing. Also a disparaging or abusive word or phrase.
Okay. And then a slur?
And then a slur, an insulting or a disparaging remark or innuendo. Also a shaming or degrading effect.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing for a minute. To Allison's point earlier, we work with all these different kinds of people. It would be absolutely heartbreaking for me to think that someone went to a realtor as a resource and was met with something like this, or participated in commenting about somebody else in the process of buying a home or selling a home in which these things were shared. We have a grand duty to be a safe place for everyone and respect cultures, religion, backgrounds. They're all these classes of people, and respect where they're coming from and their perspective and what's important to them. We should be that, and it's the right way to live a life, and it's certainly a great way to practice our profession, and it's needed, and now it's required as part of our code of ethics. To Mark's point, it's surprising, isn't it, that it took this long? Why did this take this long? This probably could have been around a little bit longer. Now, perhaps we didn't. Look, I think I told this to Lance Harrison, Mark. I think I told you this, but I said, look, the realtors I know are outstanding people. There's a rare few that are not high quality people. Right. And so, it's not like we needed the code to keep us to be kind with folks. Anyone want to weigh in on this, or a comment about this, or an experience or anything, or how you feel about this?
Yeah, I put it in the chat. It just went to Lance, but I meant to send it to the group. I have a very difficult buyer. In fact, Will, you helped me last week on an acceptance on a resolution of due diligence. During your due diligence, mom came to town and proceeded to go and introduce herself to all the neighbors. And when we were on site on the property, she rolled her eyes to neighbors at the north, said, "Oh, they're Catholic," rolled her eyes at the neighbors at the south and said, "He's a single nurse." And I looked at her and I said, "Oh, how nice," and walked away. I honestly, I couldn't, I was dumbfounded.
That's a tough position to be in, to correct the client. And so the code of ethics, of course, doesn't apply to the client. It applies to us. Mark, any advice on what, I mean?
Well, I think Heidi handled it well. That's where you're most likely to see this sort of behavior is from your clients, not from yourselves or from other realtors. So I think handling it that way and just kind of no comment or moving on is appropriate. I think it's important to note that we talk about the standard of practice just being adopted in November of 2020. The article has been around for a long time, right? So the article, the standard of practice, just because that was adopted in 2020 doesn't mean that the concept and the spirit wasn't alive already in the article. These standards are just to kind of illustrate and to further explain or provide examples of the article itself. So keep that in mind as we go through this. And keep also in mind, we'll get to this, but you can't violate a standard of practice. You can only violate the articles themselves. So keep that in mind.
Okay. Let me tee something up. Hey, Angie, if you can hear me, I sent you a text. I need our first participant. So we need them right now. Okay. So let me see if I can tee this up. We've got a fun little object lesson. But let me kind of tee it up. So have you ever,
real quick, someone commented that nowadays it's particularly difficult to adhere to this ethical standard in today's political environment, which I think is an area that's going to come up a lot in the past few years and certainly going forward, it looks like as well. That's a good comment. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
I'm trying to monitor the chat as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, John Bach is our first participant here. So John, make your way down to the 3rd floor and do it quickly. Yeah, we'll do this. We'll do this first object lesson. Okay, so dear John, hurry up.
All of you in Park City can breathe a sigh of relief. You won't be called on, right?
Right.
We do have 3 hours.
Right.
John Bach,
I
come
love
on
it.
down. You're the next participant in the Willa Cooper demonstration.
Here he comes. All right, you guys, I'm gonna turn this around. Hi, John. One. Okay. You guys all know John, one of our outstanding agents. And lately, he's becoming the expert in daybreak. So anyway, okay. So guys, can you guys see us okay? Head nods?
Yes.
Okay, what we have, John, is I have 2 boxes here. Okay. So guys, this is, Heidi was talking about, sometimes we get difficult clients, don't we? Sometimes we have, different perspectives, different backgrounds, and they can be challenging. So this object lesson has 2 different boxes in here. So go ahead and open up the first box, John. Okay, tell everybody what it is.
It's a box of some beautiful rocks.
Rocks. Here, I'll show them. Pebbles. Okay. So it's filled with rocks. Okay, I need you to take off your shoe.
Okay. Both of them?
Just one.
Okay.
Okay, now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take these pebbles and I'm gonna put them in John's shoe. Okay. I'm just gonna throw them in there. Okay. Now we've got him in his shoe, and I want you to put that shoe on.
Okay.
How does that feel?
Uncomfortable.
Okay. Let's open up the second box. Okay. Tell us what we got.
Some candy.
Okay, so
my favorite Reese's.
Reese's. Okay, so in here we've got some candy. Okay, and why don't you go ahead and pick the one you like the most? The Reese's. Okay. Okay. Now here's what I want you to do. I want you to open that up. You're not going to eat it quite yet.
Okay.
But what John is going to do is he's going to walk from here. He's going to go up to Becky.
Okay.
Becky has something for you.
Okay.
Okay. So you could do this pretty quick.
Yeah.
But why don't you go ahead and just walk up the stairs?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to walk. Don't take the elevator.
Okay.
And then while you're eating this, and then go get what Becky has and come back down. And then I want to talk to you about it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thanks, John. Okay. Yeah, you're glad you're not in the old mill office right now? So John is walking up these stairs with those pebbles, which he says is highly uncomfortable. And while he's eating a Reese's and he's climbing up to go get something from something from Becky, who's at our front desk. So we'll see what he has to say. So when he comes back, we'll interview him. While he's doing that, let's move on. let's move on to a few other, actually, you know what? Let's, Mark, what do you think about we just hit the codes that have changed in the last 2 years?
Sure.
Okay, let's go. Everyone turn to 1.7 in the Code of Ethics, 1.7. Let's highlight that one.
Will, you do know that Becky just put in the chat she has nothing to give John?
Oh, really? You know why?
The joke's on him.
No, because
Will, why don't you put a pebble in your shoe and run it up to Becky?
And no kidding. If we were live, I would do that.
We are live.
Angie, come be my helper, and take this to John. I have something for John, and it's actually sitting right here on my desk. So, whoops. I'll do a little bit better on the next object lesson. Okay, there goes Angie. Okay, I'm sure we're going to learn a lot from this object lesson. Okay, go to 1.7. 1.7, everybody, in your Code of Ethics. Will you highlight this one? And actually, Mark, we did send an invoice, didn't we, to NAR to tell them that their participant guide
We did yesterday.
Okay, good. So you could count on Will and Mark uncovering the error in the participants guide. When you highlight that one, you should have in your book, it says amended 193, not if that's what you have. Is that what you have, 193? Okay, it actually should be amended in January 20. Okay. And if you guys are really A students, you would already know what this one says because many of you have had to use this in your practice. This particular code has new language that says, upon written request of a cooperating broker who submits an offer to the listing broker shall provide as soon as practical a written affirmation to the cooperating broker stating that the offer has been submitted to the seller. Sound familiar? Nod your head, sound familiar? This means that you have to show evidence you presented the offer. Now, the mistaken error that we often get here is that you have to show a rejected offer. The rep C actually rejected. That's actually not the case. What you have to do is affirm in writing that back to the other agent that you've actually presented the offer. So that's a new code. It's not in your handout. So even though your handout says 2021, okay? So that's the first change. Mark, anything on that one before I go to the next one?
No, just to clarify, that's a change, an update to the standard of practice, which is what they update as necessary. They didn't change the actual article.
Okay. All right, let's go to 311. Okay, 311. This standard says realtors may not refuse to cooperate on the basis of a broker's race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, national origin, sexual orientation, or gender identity. It kind of goes with 10.5, doesn't it? Okay, so notice that one's also changed. Okay, one more. Go to 12.1. Yeah, now you should have already, you could highlight 10.5. You should already have that one, but 12.1. Notice it was changed in 20. Okay, this one says, unless they are receiving no commission. This is worded funny, Mark, isn't it?
It is.
Worded a little funny. So let me get through it and we'll explain it. Unless receiving no commission from any source for their time and services, realtors may not use the term free.
May use the term.
May use the term free. So that's unless you're not being compensated from any source, okay? Or similar terms in their advertising and in other representations only if they clearly and conspicuously disclose, one, by whom they are being or expected to be paid, the amount of the payment or anticipation of the payment, any conditions associated with the payment offered product or service, and any other terms related to their commission. So look, we've been talking about it's not a good practice for us to tell buyers we're free. And I think this is where this is born. We're sending a bad message to buyers. Hey, my services are free. You don't have to pay anything. This is approaching this issue and saying, you can't do that unless you said, I'm not charging you directly, but I am being compensated from what? I'm expected to be paid by the seller. I'm expected to be paid this amount. This one probably, I think it should be flipped. I think this should be flipped around, but it is worded kind of funny. Mark, what do you have?
It's very poorly written. I mean, what it says is you're not receiving compensation from any source for your services or time, so you can use the word free, but only if you disclose where you are being paid from, how much that payment is, and what the conditions surrounding it are. It makes absolutely no sense. So the bottom line is don't use the word free. If you're engaged by a buyer to represent them, you're not going to want to use the word free because your services are not free.
Okay, maybe we can come back to that if you want. John's here patiently waiting. So here, I'll come back around. Okay. Okay, let's talk loud. All right, so John, what did you actually get? What did you walk in there to get?
Some money.
Okay. All right, you got compensated.
Yes.
Okay. So what did it feel like to walk the stairs with those pebbles?
Like a thorn in my side, kind of like a constant reminder something was wrong.
Okay.
Something was off.
Okay. Do you take the stairs very often?
No. Look at me. No. Look at me. Are you kidding? Sometimes if I'm in a hurry.
One of the Zig Ziglar quotes I remember from a long time ago, he says, the elevator to success is broken, but the stairs are always open. But anyway, those of you know, if you're in the old mill office, I try to take the stairs a lot, and I end up on the 6th floor and can hardly talk because I'm out of breath. But okay, so you went up there, but you're eating a Reese's.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, what did you focus on? Like, what was, like, are you feeling the rocks, and what's going on with all that?
Yeah, I didn't feel it a ton. Just, you know,
yeah.
It's like real estate. When you have a difficult client, you kind of find a spot in between your toes for the rocks to go.
Okay.
And it's less painful.
Okay.
And then, you know, you have built-in calluses from where you walk. Yeah. And that's where it doesn't hurt as much.
Right.
So you're eating your Reese's and you're just walking, and it's like, okay, this shoe's just not very comfortable.
Yeah.
So
if you guys don't know John, he's a fabulous person, and he's so good at being patient with everybody, and just a real warrior for his clients. And you have ability to make friends really quickly. He's easily trusted because of the way he approaches his business. This object lesson was simply to point out that we have clients that are sometimes difficult with pebbles in our shoe, but they're also very sweet experiences. They can be very sweet over life. Like your memories can be sweet if you focus on that. It's also to recognize that no transaction is simple. We often have to climb the stairs, and the compensation is waiting at the end. But I wanted to point out that the compensation really is more than the money. It's always more than the money. Fulfillment never comes from the money. The fulfillment and the really happy life comes from how we help somebody. The result of that is trust. The result of that is compensation. It always comes after our ability to make a relationship. John, you're excellent at that. Thank you for playing along.
Thank you.
And you can keep Okay, I hope that was memorable. The pebbles and the candy. It's a pain in the shoe. It's also very sweet. Use that one with your teenagers, you know? That would be a good one. We've got another object lesson coming later, but let's go ahead now back to the slides. Any comments on that, Mark, or anything I missed? Or
no, I think it was good. I think the exercise is to focus on your perception and your attitude. And one of the things we talked about in terms of the code of ethics is, don't look at the code of ethics as the pebble in the shoe. Look at the code of ethics as something that can help your business, help your professionalism, help the goals of the code of ethics originally, which is to advance the integrity of the business and the professionalism and the excellence and the high standards. If your perception is that of the candy with respect to the code of ethics instead of the pebbles, you have an opportunity to make the code of ethics a valuable tool in your business.
Great. Okay. Having a little trouble here. Zoom just tried to tell me I can't share my screen. So sorry, let's go back. Share screen. slideshow from, not from the beginning. Oh, shoot. Okay. Yeah, welcome to technology, guys. Let's go. Sorry for the quick reminder of all this. I wanted to look, we're going to take a break here in a minute, but I wonder if we could let's go back and recognize something about how the code, the Code of Ethics is laid out. Right. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's geez.
Slide 15, roughly.
Slide 15? Okay. Oh, Zoom. I love you and also wish so bad we were live. Hang on just a sec, guys. So sorry. Okay, now PowerPoint was not letting me go backwards. Awesome. Okay, well, check this out. I don't need PowerPoint. You know what Arnold String always told me? PowerPoint never teaches the class. You do. Okay, thank you, Arnold. Thank you, Arnold. Okay, so I just wanted to point out that there's 3 sections to the Code of Ethics. You should know this. If ever you're trying to find something or teach from it or educate someone from it, notice that they're laid out in 3 different sections. First one is client and customer. Okay. The next one is the duties to the public. And the next one is duty to realtors. So it's a little easier to find things if you're kind of trying to figure out, well, where does it fall? Okay. So that's duty to customer and client. What page are we on there, Mark, with our participant guide?
Participant guide. Let's see.
Page 8.
7.
Page 8, Natalie. Thank you. Page 8.
Oh, wow.
Okay, great. Okay, we're because we're going to be taking a break in a minute. Why don't we do the first couple of minutes, Joe, of the UAR introduction from Lance Harrison. So guys, Lance Harrison is one of the 3 attorneys who works for the Utah Association of Realtors. I'm going to have him explain to you all what he does, what his oversight is, and introduce some of the staff to you. I think after we get done with the staff introduction, Joe, we'll break, take a 10-minute break, come back, and then we'll talk about arbitration, and we'll talk about mediation and the way we handle disputes and go from there. How does that sound? Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, so Joe is going to be sharing his screen. If you'll notice, Lance Harrison's up in the top corner. I've pulled up the UAR website here, and he is going to, start at 1 minute. He'll take you through kind of what they do and who the staff is. Okay, go ahead, Joe.
The Realtor Association, there's a lot of different levels, right? We have the local level, which you might be more used to, right? Salt Lake Board, Utah Central, Northern Wasatch, a lot of local boards, and they do a lot of hands-on stuff. And then there's the national level, right? Doing a lot of national things. But the state level, the Utah Association is a small, we have like 8 staff, and we do very specific things. And the 2 main things are political stuff, government affairs, and legal stuff. So let me break that down. We can go through the staff really quickly, how that goes. But so we have our officers, presidents, they're all elected, just like the normal board, and they keep us in line and everything. But in the staff, we have our CEO, who is, he's an attorney and he's government. So he's everything, right? He was one of the first attorneys hired at the UAR, kind of did the legal hotline stuff, and he did government affairs. And so he's the perfect one to lead us. He does everything, but right now he does a ton of lobbying for us, government affairs, that type of stuff, and then leads everything we do. Casey is the office manager doing all the admin and helping everything go forward. Communication and events, involved with all those things are communication and events for members and for leadership. And then with the legal team, we do a couple things. First, all the forms you use usually come from us, except the ones that your broker has specially made for them, or if they don't like our forms or whatever. But so forms is a big part of this. We do a lot of forms, a lot of contract stuff. We do a legal hotline for realtors, member benefit, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Anybody can call. We can chat about anything you want, really. And then we also do professional standards, ethics, arbitrations. We handle all that except for Salt Lake Board. Salt Lake Board does their own thing, but sometimes there's overlap and we do the overlap as well. And then Alyssa and Kate, they do a lot for us, lobbying. They work with Chris a lot. They do local elections, trying to get realtors into local office and into state offices. And then Jason's our money guy, and we love him.
Everyone needs a money guy. That's an awful lot for you guys to do. My goodness. So, Joe. Okay, when we come back, Lance is going to talk. I'm going to ask him what he specifically handles. And he's going to talk about his arbitration focus and mediation, how we handle disputes. So, guys, it's 10:30. Let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break. Please watch your mute. keep it on, and keep it appropriate on video. I just remind you. Okay? Just remember your video camera's on. I'll see you back in 10 minutes. Okay, 10 minutes. Thank you. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Aren't you having so much fun? Where'd the time go? You're already like halfway through the class. Are you kidding me? You're surviving. See, I told you it'd be fun. I know I'm having more fun than anybody. There's no question about that. Okay. Hey, so look, we're gonna talk about Lance Harrison's gonna continue his discussion about what his role is with arbitration, mediation, and handling disputes. So I think we're probably talking about, look, you're probably gonna be on page 9 of your handout. Yep, 9 and 10. It's kind of all enforcements. 11 is
11, yeah.
12, 13, all the enforcements. Okay, so this is how. Look, we agree as realtors that if there's a dispute between each other, we do not sue each other. We submit to a panel of our peers, hearing our grievance or ethics complaint, and then we also agree if there's a commission dispute that we'll agree to arbitration. Okay, so again, this is under Board of Realtors compensation and ethics complaint. So. Joe, let's go ahead and continue Lance Harrison's, and I may stop you and continue on and then show you a couple of slides. Okay, so let's pick up where we left off. Lance, you're so the 3 attorneys, Chris and Craig and you. What is your particular focus at the UAR, and how do you leverage your attorney status to help us all? So what's your role there?
Yeah, so my main 2 jobs is legal hotline. So I take on hotline calls every week, and that kind of informs everything else we do at the UAR. We get a lot of information from the hotline. What are the hot topics? What do people need help with? How do we structure our classes? What forms do we need? So hotline's a big part of it. And then I'm also over all the ethics and arbitrations for the state. So I'm just kind of the admin guy and the trainer for the panels, for grievance committee and the hearings and all that stuff. So those are my 2 jobs, hotline and ethics. And then I help with forms and other legal things and governance, but those are my main jobs.
Interesting. So is it fair to say that a lot of our realtors probably don't want to see you in an ethics complaint or an arbitration? That's probably not, you're not going to want to go see Lance. And it's like, oh, I've been sentenced to see Lance in the arbitration. So could you explain to everybody, we were talking about this before I hit record, but the difference in, what is professional standards, an ethics complaint, arbitration, and grievance committee? It sounds like they're all about the same. Can you separate those out and talk about how all that works?
Yeah, for sure. So professional standards is the umbrella, right? That's us wanting to be ethical and us doing some arbitration. So that's the umbrella, but it all falls under different things. So the grievance committee is the first step in the process if you're going to submit a complaint, an ethics complaint, or an arbitration request. So that they both go to grievance, and they just are really basic. Are we going to push it onto a hearing? A hearing is where the decisions are made, right? Is it an ethical violation? And who do we get paid? Who gets the money in an arbitration? That's the hearing. So there's a lot of overlap in these 2 things, but there's ethics and arbitration. They both fall under grievance committee and professional standards, just different waylays along the way. So
when we understand that in our peers ultimately are going to be helping us decide you know, if there's an ethics complaint, if there's a fine or a penalty, and then if it's arbitration, ultimately who's going to earn this commission that's being disputed. So same panel, same group of people. If you're on the grievance committee, you're going to hear ethics complaints. You're also going to hear arbitrations, correct?
Yes. So the grievance committee is the first hoop you got to jump through, but that's a separate committee. There's the kind of the people on the panel is more the professional standards. And I know I lump them together, but there's two committees, grievance and then panel people. A lot of times the grievance committee members, they'll serve on that committee for a long time. And then they'll say, hey, I want to serve on the panel now. And so they kind of learn a lot at grievance committee, and then they actually sit on the panel. So different groups, but they all review ethics and arbitrations just at different levels.
Yeah. Okay. You know, I am constantly amazed how complex this business is. And unfortunately, we've occasionally had to go through arbitrations and deal with ethics complaints. It's probably just the sheer number of agents that, you know, you oversee. So, you know, if you're watching this on CE and your brokerage is small and never had an ethics complaint, congratulations, that's great. But over time, it just seems like there's enough transactions that it's probably gonna get you somewhere. And then also we've got this idea of procuring cause in the theory of procuring cause and the complexity of how we decide who has earned a commission. Believe it or not, we sometimes dispute who's earned the commission. It comes up, right, Lance?
Yeah, it does.
It comes up. This happens to be the arbitration guidelines. And I was just mentioning to Lance that I don't think realtors understand. This is just the worksheet that a panel would have to go through to decide. And there's 6 pages of that. Who has earned a commission? So, you know, there's a lot of different questions on here. I have highlighted one here that says, did the broker who made the initial introduction to the property engage in conduct or fail to take action, which caused the purchaser or tenant to utilize the services of another? So in other words, they've estranged the relationship because they almost abandoned them in this process. That's one of very complicated, you know, details that can show up in this worksheet where these panels have volunteered to help us decide who's earned a commission. You got your head wrapped around all that, Lance?
I try to. Yeah, it's a fun thing. But the thing with arbitration and with ethics is, first, you have to remember, like you said, it's all volunteer. Like, I don't make any decisions. I train realtors who are making decisions for their peers. And it's not easy, but they do it and they volunteer and they do an awesome job. So if you're ever involved, I know it can be scary, but just know they are doing the best they can to better the industry. And we're not about punishing people. We're about educating people, right? We're not the division. We're separate. People don't understand sometimes the difference, but we're about educating. And sometimes discipline comes into that, or sometimes you lose a commission, but we're about education at its core.
Yeah. And sometimes those penalties are meant to get people to learn.
Yes.
You know, in other words, we're not going to grab money from a party to make someone else whole. That's not the role, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to grab from a realtor money in an ethics complaint and say your damage to this party was X, so we're going to pull it from you to make someone whole. The fine is there as an education. You know, penalty, you know, exactly. The stove is hot. Don't touch that. It's not going to be, it's going to be painful. So, yeah, I mean, it's an amazing organization, really, with a lot of spinning plates, a lot of detail to it. We're really fortunate to have, you know, so many resources around us. So let's pivot to, is there a particular, I don't know, maybe we could say this, and this is off the cuff, guys, okay? Lance and I have not rehearsed this. So is there an ethics theme violation that you're seeing right now? And I'd also like to ask you, like, how do people end up in arbitration? Is there something that you wish you could say to realtors that would, you know, kind of stop this sometimes contentious arguments over commission? So let's start off with the ethics theme, and what are you seeing in that realm?
Yeah, so it's there's a lot of different types of ethics complaints first, right? We have members of the public who are angry at their realtor, their own client, their own agent, or the other realtor, right? There's so members of the public, people, the clients involved are angry. The second type is realtors are angry, right? They're filing a complaint against other realtors, you know, for whatever reason. So those are the two, and they have different meanings and different kind of, you know, outcomes on why are they here? What do they want out of the process, right? Realtors a lot of times are saying, hey, I want to make my industry better. I see this and I want to take action. They might not be mad or whatever. They just want to make things better. The public is, I'm angry or I'm hurt and I want to get something out of this. I want them to know that they did something wrong, and it's more emotional sometimes. So it just depends. But with those two things kind of in the background, I think there's a couple themes that I've been seeing. So just recently, we've had several complaints about access to property. So this is one of the more egregious ones, right? There's a lot of ethic complaints that might not be, you know, slap on the wrist, you should have done this, did do this, you know, a lot of technical rules, but access to property, like leaving the key in the back door unlocked after a showing, you know, leaving the property unsecured and enabling access to other people. That to me is more of an egregious one. And members of the public, when they get home and their home is unsecured, you better believe sometimes people think, oh, not a huge deal, put the key back, whatever. No, it's a huge deal to them. They feel unsafe.
I hate to think this was happening in this hot market where, you know, you're vying to give your buyer client some kind of advantage. Is this part of a tactic to keep other agents away? Are they taking the key with them? And
honestly, I don't think it's on purpose. A lot of times it's people moving too fast or just being lazy or passing the key around for whatever reason. I think that's a lot of it. And that's most ethics complaints. It's not blatant, I'm going to do this because I want to hurt someone or I want to help myself. It's they're moving too fast. They're not being careful. They're not thinking about the consequences of their actions a lot. So a lot of times that's why we're about education mostly, is because people do things without thinking. And it does hurt people in the long run. Another example of access was, you know, someone's in the neighborhood, their client's kind of pressuring, hey, let's go see this house. It's right there. They don't have an appointment. They go up, they knock, nobody answers. What do? They walk in. The clients are upstairs, right? There's people in the home and they're abusing that access. Yeah, they're traumatized. The public says, hey, ethics, division, let's get after this, guys. I've been scared for the next several months thinking someone's going to walk into my home. We took the key box off. I don't trust realtors, right? So the trust in our industry is wrapped up in some of these decisions. And I do not think that realtor was thinking, oh yeah, I'm just going to walk in. No, he was like, oh, I'll just do this quickly. Nobody's home. It won't matter, right? No, we got to slow down because it does have long-term consequences.
Yeah. It seems like the market might be pushing us to do things that are, you know, we normally wouldn't do when the inventory is so low and there's so many buyers and they're begging you and pushing you. And I mean, it's like, bless our hearts, we're trying to appease the buyer, but we're stepping out of bounds with stuff like this. So that's a good, it's interesting that that's the one that you would see right now.
Yeah. Kind of weird that that's what comes to mind. I've just seen a lot of that and people get really fired up about that, as they should. And so that's what's coming to mind. There's of course a million other examples like that.
You know, I would have thought, and again, I told you guys this is just spontaneous here. You know what I would have thought you would have said?
Yeah.
I would have thought with all the multiple offers we're seeing, you know, like 6, 8, 10, 12, 20 offers per property at these lower price ranges, that you would have seen people upset that their offer was not kept confidential. That a seller was out there or an agent was out there going, look, the high watermark is this. If anyone wants to hit it, we're good with that, and sharing what the top offer is. I thought that was the one that you would see.
Yeah, I do get a lot of calls on that on the hotline, but as far as an ethical issue, it's not unethical, right? Those offers are not confidential. So if we got a complaint on something like this, we dismiss it, right? But there is the ethical obligation to tell your client, hey, these aren't confidential,
right?
Don't expect confidentiality. So I don't see those complaints, but I do see those on the hotline a lot. People angry, and I have to kind of educate and say, well, we need to understand the real rules here.
We are seeing very, 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 very few. I mean, 1 out of 1,000 where there is a pre-agreement for confidentiality sent prior to the offer being submitted, but it is extremely rare. It's usually your higher price points, like a 10 million plus property, where not only the confidentiality of the offer is sensitive, but it's also the sales price and who's buying it and things like that. So we do see that very rarely. But to Lance's point, everybody, it's we've got to tell our buyers that when you submit an offer, there is no confidentiality agreement. So, okay, thank you. What you guys turn to your Code of Ethics, section 113, subsection 5. So this is the one I thought that Lance was going to talk about, because we have multiple offers. So we should be looking at, again, section 113. And let's go to subsection 5, which says, actually, Mark, do you want to read it?
Sure.
Okay.
When entering into buyer-tenant agreements, realtors must advise potential clients of the possibility that sellers or sellers' representatives may not treat the existence, terms, or conditions of offers as confidential unless confidentiality is required by law, regulation, or by any confidentiality agreement between the parties.
Okay. So have you ever had a buyer upset because they thought that someone was shopping their offer? Or a listing agent who received an offer, called everybody who was interested and said, I just got an offer, and then with seller's permission, told all those buyers what the highest price was? Did that ever upset a buyer in that process? Likely so, right? So it's not common for us to send over these confidentiality agreements. I've only seen a few, and they're usually in the higher price points. In the Park City office, Kevin Larson, I've seen a handful through the, I'm saying maybe 2 or 3, where someone sends over a confidentiality agreement prior to sending the offer, parties agree, then it's confidential. So, and let's not get this confused with, I don't want anyone to know my sales price in the MLS. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the existence of an offer and what the terms of the offer are. Any thoughts on this one, Mark? I just thought that would be the one that everybody would be most upset with because of the multiple offers, but he says it's people taking keys.
Right. Well, I've seen 3 or 4 confidentiality agreements in the past year. And the reason I see them is they also attempt to bind the brokerage in addition to the agent. But they're very uncommon. And like you said, they're at the higher price points. But they're just as relevant at the lower price points when you're competing to have your offer accepted.
So what is our role as a buyer's agent regarding this ethic, this section? What should we be doing?
We should be advising our clients that their offers are not confidential unless we require confidentiality from the seller, that the seller can tell other buyers what your offer is. So we need to go ahead and counsel our buyers that their offer is not confidential.
Okay. All right. So look, I think I'm going to change gears here and not play the rest of the video. I'm just going to tell you what's going to happen. I'm going to send us into some breakout groups again. I want you guys to talk this over. Let me give you a couple of things to consider. But first, let me tell you what Lance is about to say, just to speed us along here. I go to ask Lance, I said, hey, what's everybody like when they come to arbitration and ethics complaints? And he says, oh my goodness, it can be contentious. There's tears. People are upset. They're mad. He said, I've had people yelling at each other. I mean, imagine this, guys. You're walking into an environment with like this contention is so thick, heart rates are raised, emotions are high, everyone's on edge. It's you against them. And, this is the environment sometimes we walk into. As much as we try to control it, as much as Lance tries to control it, there's rules, there's a panel, there's a process. All of this, it can be very, very challenging on the parties. In some cases, they've been made to go there. They don't want to be there, So here they are. So look, here, I guess, are a couple of questions. How do you avoid all that? How do you avoid disputes over commissions? How do you avoid ethics complaints? What can we do as an industry to, not only better our industry, but also, so how do you balance this? How do you balance this thing where we want a higher level of professionalism, but we have this concept of discipline? Okay. How do we discipline? How do we fix? How do we repair using mediate or arbitration and code of ethics violations? So, Mark, if there's another critical question to throw out there, throw it out there. I'm going to break into groups. I just want you talking about what we've been talking about. That's all. There's no answer here. There's no quiz. There's no thing to fill out. I would just like you guys to talk together about what we're hearing so far and what are your thoughts. But any questions that they could consider, Mark?
I think when I think about ethics, I think about the current environment and how, looking at one specific ethical article that we're focusing on, Article 16. Everybody's competing for listings and has been for the past 2 years, more so than historically. Looking at Article 16, it's important to have an understanding of that article and the standards of practice associated with it to figure out what is and is not permissible in terms of trying to compete for listings. We've had a case recently where an agent felt that another agent overstepped the bounds in terms of what they were offering in terms of marketing the property. I think that's a really good one to take a look at in this market. And their articles are applicable all the time, but I think I'd focus on looking at the industry and the current state of the market to examine where you might come up with some practice tips to help your business and ensure that other agents, because these aren't there's just articles and code that is applicable to you. You can also use this in your business and hold other agents accountable when they're violating the spirit or the letter of the article.
Yeah, well,
Mark, I'm just curious. When you say agents are offering something that maybe isn't appropriate or borderline, what do you mean by that?
No, I just meant they were offering a different way to market the property. In this particular instance, another agent was suggesting to a seller that, well, maybe you shouldn't list with that particular person because I can do this. Oh. And the issue was whether or not there was an exclusive arrangement in place and whether that person had violated it, who initiated the conversation, those types of issues. Not that they were offering something inappropriate. It's just that in that instance, the other agent was not being respectful, arguably, of the exclusive arrangement.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and have our breakouts. I just want you guys talking about all these subjects that we've been bringing up and just work it out. When we come back, I'd love to know just what's rising to the top here. What are you picking up on already? Joe, go ahead and break us out. And remember, you guys got to select the button to join the breakout. So just be prepared to do that.
Well, okay. What time? How much time?
Let's give it just 5 minutes.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, Joe, can you put me in a room? It had me go to room 6, then it kicked me out entirely.
What did you do, Amber?
I don't know.
Say mean things to them or something?
I joined and then it kicked me out entirely. So
let me see if I can find you real quick. You said you were in room 6?
yeah.
Let's go there.
Okay, sorry about that. Steve in our group was in the middle of a question. I hope that was helpful. Before, anybody want to share what their conversations were? Just go ahead and what did you talk about? What did you learn? What's being emphasized here?
Well, I'll speak up. Kevin Larson is in our group 9 and helped me out here to all the group 9 members, but I found it interesting and new to me about divulging other prices of other offers if you're the selling agent, and divulging that information to the buying agent if and when asked. And I thought that heretofore that was confidential information, but it's not, correct?
Well, there is a requirement. Realtors can't just say that without permission. So right. you have to have, yeah, from the seller. So look, correct, yes. if you kind of flip this on its end, what if we handcuffed sellers in their negotiation process and said, you can't talk about any offers you ever receive? That's going to be another bound. That'd be a hard mountain to climb, you know, because sometimes we want to just say, look, the highest price of this property right now is, you know, 1.8 million. Okay. That's the best offer we have. So if any buyer is interested in that, and now with instruction from the seller, and I would recommend that be in writing, then we can go through that. I mean, I don't know that that's going to be the biggest takeaway, you know, from today. Is I don't want everyone running out going, hey, you know, this is a new thing we can do. You know, it's really not something that we would reach. It's not a tool you reach for every time. It's actually one at the back of the toolbox at the bottom that every once in a while you go and find it because it's better for your seller, but it's rare to use. Mark, anything else on that?
We got a question about, can we ask to see written confirmation? I lost the chat. Written confirmation of offers. Hang on one second. Yeah, can we ask to see written confirmation of previous offers that the seller's agent is considering? Sorry, I thought that was a full question.
Okay.
Eileen, do you want to ask that question out loud? Maybe not. All right.
I can read it to you.
I do. I just was wondering, sorry, I messed up there. I just was wondering, a lot of times you call and they're like, oh yeah, I have this offer, I have this offer, I have this offer. You have no clue whether they have any offers or what they've got. You know, it seems like there should be some kind of way to get a written confirmation that the seller has actually received offers and, you know, what they're telling you is true.
Notice of multiple offers.
Yeah, but
yeah, boy, if they would submit that and then not actually have multiple offers, that would be a clear violation of the Code of Ethics.
But how do you know?
Well, I had a client over the weekend that we ran into that situation. So they went ahead and wrote about just barely over list price, but we put a very good escalation clause in there that went well above what the agent told us they had. And so with that, our offer was accepted, but she also provided the full offer with all addenda that activated our escalation clause. So I felt that protected my client. It kept them close to value of the home as they saw it listed, but also took them to their maximum that they were willing to spend for the property with protection of other offers being provided to prove. So.
Yeah, but it's only in an escalation clause that you would actually have to present those additional offers. But yeah, it's.
But can't you always, I mean, is there anything that keeps us from asking for an escalation clause with every offer we write? If the other agent is claiming they have multiple offers and we question that integrity, can't we write with an escalation clause and get that, even if it's just for $1,000 for our client? You know what I mean? I guess
because it requires a copy of the competing offer be provided.
What?
the escalation clause requires a redacted copy of the competing offer. And if you feel like there's not a competing offer, that would be one way to fish it out.
That's a good reason to use our form. It does have that language in it that says they must provide proof that there's another offer that hey, well, if it escalates, your offer. You're welcome.
Lori! Hey, Lori, come see me. I got something for you.
But it still doesn't answer Eileen's question of whether or not an agent is being truthful in the fact that they've received multiple offers. So I hear what you're saying, Eileen. You know, it's just questionable, you know, whether or not the seller says, yeah, tell them everything about all the other multiple offers I've received in their response to multiple offers.
I think we've just gotten away from the multiple offer, in my perspective, because we have so many offers. There's, you know, when you have 20, 30 offers, I think agents have just gotten away from providing that multiple offer. I think when we had 3, 4, 5, it was provided, but I don't know why somewhere now they just put it across the MLS and think that that is notice. So there's nothing to hold them. I don't know, Will, and Mark, if they're just putting it in the MLS saying multiple offers received, does that hold them to that legally?
Mark, how would it look if we had an agent who deliberately misrepresented multiple offers, even put it on the MLS, and when they never had multiple offers? How much fun would we have with that one?
Well, it would obviously look very bad, and it's obviously a violation of the Code of Ethics. I think what we're concerned about is how do you prove it and how do you bring it up? And you know, that's the difficulty. It would have to more than likely have to escalate to an ethics complaint in order to bring the proof out that the multiple offers were contrived.
I think there are two things that I thought of that we're forcing the agent to do. One is, remember the Code of Ethics? We just talked about this 12.1. No, not 12.1.
13.5. 113.5.
Yeah, where we say I'm sorry, it's 1.7. Sorry, 1.7. 1.7 says that if I ask you to prove that you presented the offer, you have to send me written confirmation you did so. We're building the evidence that you told me in writing that you presented the offer. Okay. The other piece of this, Tammy and Heidi's point here, is that if you submitted an escalation clause, it's going to force them to produce the evidence that they actually had of their offers. Outside of that, you don't have anything else here unless you had to go through, you know, an ethics complaint to pull it out.
Right.
So, you know, look, honesty here is key. And we're trusting our agents to be honest. But if we ever had evidence to support that an agent misrepresented multiple offers when they did not have them, then you can bet that would be one I think we want to clean the industry up on and have that agent expelled, you know,
well,
because there's so much trust violation there. Yeah, go ahead, Kev.
A technique that we have used in the past is for when an agent suspects that, they'll come to their broker and the broker will call the other agent's broker and say, can you verify the existence of multiple offers? And we've gotten really good cooperation from the other broker in saying, yes, there are, or no, there's not. I will talk to the agent and take care of that.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that a lot. That's a good takeaway, guys. You know, if you have a question, and be careful, we're dealing with people, you know, you don't call up and say, hey, I think your agent's lying to me.
Yeah.
Probably don't want to do that one. That's probably not a good way to engage that. You know, you say, yeah, can you just confirm it? We wanted to make sure before our buyer authors their offer. Can you confirm this? I like that, Kev.
Yeah. Hey, another thing in standard practice 115, this came up in our discussion.
Okay.
To actually, you have the right to ask the listing agent if one of the competing offers is written by them or someone in their firm, but it's only if asked. And a lot of people in our group that had never known that that was possible to actually ask the listing agent if they were representing one of the competing offers. And if so, they'd reduce their commission so that you can have a level playing field for your buyer to equal that offer.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that one up, Kev. Mark and I are smiling because we knew this was likely to come up in the Code of Ethics today. Look, in our Park City operations, the Wasatch Back operations were small enough that we often have this issue come up. So let's set the stage here. We have a listing agent who has written an offer for a buyer. Okay, let me say it again. Listing agent has a buyer and they wrote an offer. The second or third offer or the other offers is now written by an agent either side inside our company. Okay, so what Kevin is saying about 115 is that the buyer's agents have got to be proactive in asking. That's one proactive step. You have to ask the listing agent, okay, you have multiple offers. Are any of these your buyer? Okay. So what do you think the sensitive nature of all of this is? And I'd like to hear from, just for a second here, Kev, don't respond because I know you have the answer. Mark, don't respond because I know you have the answer. But anybody else is open here, open mic. What do you think the sensitivity is here? We've got a listing agent who has one of the buyers. In comes another offer from his own company. And here comes another offer. So what are we watching out here for? What's the worry? What's the problem? Anybody? What's the concern?
Limited agency. It doesn't matter whether the listing agent is representing the buyer or someone from the same brokerage. The broker all of a sudden falls into a limited capacity.
Very good, Heidi. So on the limited agency front, the listing agent is a limited agent. The brokerage is also a limited agent, but this time the broker is limited to 2 buyers instead of 1 buyer. Okay, so what is our concern here? Why is limited agency in this situation a problem, or what are we worried about? Go ahead.
Hey, Will.
Yeah, Dallas.
I think it's that the listing agent's going to see all the offers and be able to prepare their client, the buyer, to maybe write a better offer. And then also, if you're talking about other agents in our brokerage, maybe this listing was mentioned in sales meeting, and there were specific pieces of information given in sales meeting that another agent in our office might be able to use to make their better offer also, that someone outside the firm wouldn't have access to that info.
The disclosure of terms is extremely concerning.
Yeah. Yeah. So the more that you guys are talking, the more worried Mark and I are getting. Because you're right. First of all, you're very right. Look, what we don't want here is an unfair advantage. We're trying to give each buyer their equal shot. Look. So what we're worried about, frankly, is we're worried about a listing agent receiving and looking at all the offers and taking those terms and going to share them with his buyer, right? That's what we're worried about. So, and we're all under this umbrella of limited agency. So what's tough to do here is, and look, our process on this has been to inject the broker in the process to keep the information like in its own separate rooms. Buyer number 1 and 2 are never going to know what the offers are. And this has been sensitive because, look, this is our own family here. Like we love all of our agents. We would love every one of our agents to win the bid, right? But we know that one of them's not. And what we have to protect is this idea of fairness. Anything else you want to weigh in on there or comments about this, Mark?
No, it's not an easy solution, but I think the solution that we've come up with to insert the broker is probably the best solution that enables us to maintain confidentiality, maintain our limited agency obligations. I think it's the best solution out there. I haven't heard of a better one.
Yeah, we've debated this. I can tell you inside of Kevin and I've talked about this a lot because it's notoriously happening on a Friday night at 7 p.m. I mean, I'm telling you, it's like I'm walking into church and guess what? Or something like that. I mean, that's just the nature of our business is that, hey, can you present an offer? But you know what it doesn't solve? It doesn't solve the agency. See, like if we took listing agent and he's a limited agent and we take buyer agent number 2, the only one in this scenario that represents their client, 100% only their client, is buyer agent number 2. That buyer agent number 2 only represents the buyer. Everybody else in this is representing multiple parties. So even though we inject the broker into the scenario in order to keep confidentiality, the broker in that role is still limited. So it's not perfect, but I think we're trying really hard to keep it fair. Really fair.
In that situation, the broker does not want to know what buyer number 1's offer is. And a broker does not want to go into .loop and look and see what the other offer is. He wants to remain, completely unaware of what the other party's doing and just help present that one offer so that the seller can make a decision based on the offer's merits.
Yep. Any other comments on this? This is, I think this might be more common in Wasatch Back and possibly Moab than anywhere else. Look, in 30 years of being in and out of being a broker in Wasatch Front, I never had to do that. But it came up a lot in the Wasatch Back. I mean, this is happening almost monthly. So, and when you're in those scenarios, boy, everyone gets really heightened. And so we really, really try to be fair to everybody. In our recent case that we had just recent, the last time this came up, I thought we did a really nice job of keeping the distance between buyer 1 and 2. And at the end of the day, what you want is the buyer who pays the most is the one who's going to end up winning the acceptance. So then it's nothing about, people. It's not about whose agent it was or who their agent was or anything like that. It was just simply what the buyer wanted to pay. So, but very, very tough and sensitive situations that can come up.
Yeah, and Will, I know that the code says when asked or if asked, the listing agent should disclose. I think within our family, Berkshire agent to Berkshire agent, that's almost a requirement. We should let them know that we are representing one of the parties. Of course, we need the seller's authorization, but we want to treat everybody fairly and maybe go above and beyond the Code of Ethics to offer that information.
You know what, Kevin? That's one of the best things I've ever heard you say.
Geez, thanks.
No, I think that is so us. That we have to we have a higher standard here. Look, the Berkshire way is a better way, a higher way. It's just, we don't just live on the Code of Ethics. We think about fairness of our own family inside of Berkshire. And look, if you ever are the listing agent and you have a buyer and one of your agent calls, the first thing out of your mouth should be, hey, before you say anything, right? Before you tell me anything, I've written an offer for a buyer client of mine on my listing. That's look, you're not waiting for them to ask, I think is what Kevin's saying. And I think it's really good. Thank you, Kevin, for sharing that. Okay. Wow. Good stuff.
Well, let me just interject one thing. One thing that came up in our breakout was just the conversation that, I think it's you and I have talked a lot about this on almost a weekly basis. There are times where we see agents at different brokerages saying things or doing things that would be contrary to the rules and laws and articles of which we would expect our peers and fellow realtors to conduct their business by. Okay. And even though we're not on, we're not trying to police it, we also shouldn't be afraid to file disputes that are egregious. I think that if we as realtors don't take some time to stop in our own daily businesses to help fix the items that are a plague or a problem in our industry, nobody will. There's a reason for it. And again, even though we shouldn't be out looking for opportunities to turn our friends in, we also shouldn't be afraid to approach and make time for the ones that are egregious that should be discussed or brought up to help clean up our own industry. Again, if we're not willing to take that responsibility, nobody else is going to. And so it's just one of those things that you and I often have seen a lot of things that are way outside the bounds or the boundaries of our business, but we just don't have time to deal with it, nor do we want to. We don't want to look like we're turning somebody in who we're going to be doing future business with. But we do need to find some middle ground, I think, in not being afraid to deal with some of these a little more head on.
Yeah.
Lance, the other thing to think about there too is you said if we don't do it, nobody else will. Eventually somebody else will. There'll be legislation, there'll be laws, there'll be new things that we'll have to live with. And sometimes those solutions imposed from the outside of our industry are not always good because they don't understand the unintended consequences. So it's better that we deal with it within our own industry so that we don't have solutions forced on us from the outside.
Agreed.
Well, thank you guys for that. How many of you agree with that? That there's going to be some times we have to take the time to make sure that if it's egregious violation, we better do our part. Do you agree with that? There's going to be times we have to do our part. Yeah. No one asked for this. To Lance's point, we're not looking to be, some bully or in the industry. We don't go looking for this. But I'll tell you what, if we don't do it, I don't know who's going to, and it could get worse, to Kevin's point. Very good. Let's pivot. I got another object lesson for you. Okay. So let me turn this around. Okay. So let's see if that's gonna work out. Okay. Can you tell what this is? Mark, can you see it from there? Okay.
I can see it. Yes.
Okay. So what I have is I've got a vase filled with water. I've got an orange that has been peeled, and so it's been peeled. The protective covering has come off, and I've got this orange that still has the peel on. I think when I was thinking about this object lesson, it's interesting to note that the first orange weighs less. Okay, so here's the lesson. Okay, let me ask you a question. Which one of these oranges would float to the top and rise to the top? Is it the orange that weighs less without the covering, or is it the orange that has the protective covering? Which one do you think? Go ahead and put it in the chat. Which one do you think? Orange with or orange without? So Becky is here to help me. Hi, Becky. Go stand right there by number 2. You guys all know Becky. She is now promoted to our front. Thank you so much, by the way, for taking our receptionist spot. Another great admin in our team in Old Mill. So which one do you think? What are we coming in at?
Looks like we're coming in at with. I think the way you phrased the question might have swayed them.
Okay. So with the cover will rise to the top, and it's heavier. So you're saying the one that's the heavier orange will rise to the top, or the lighter orange without the cover will rise to the top? Which one goes to the top? That's the question. Are you ready to find out? Okay, so before you put those in there, Becky, I'm going to have you put the one on the left first. So this object lesson is to show, look, the covering of the orange are our code of ethics, rules, laws, all the things that protect us. And it's my belief that if we, and I know many of you see it the same way, but if we really amplify the fact that we live by code of ethics values, and we therefore build trust in our relationships, because that is the effect of it, then we make more relationships and business is successful, and therefore we rise up to the top. Okay, so let's see which one it is. Go ahead, put the wow.
Oh.
Why is that floating? Angie, our orange just floated.
It didn't go like that in rehearsals.
Your naked orange floated.
I'm pretty sure the peeled orange dried out, Will.
It dried out, didn't it? Okay, never mind the guy behind the curtain.
No, that wasn't even a brand new orange, and I peeled it this morning.
Yeah, Will just talked a long time this morning. It just dried it out.
Yesterday, that orange sunk right to the bottom and stayed there. We couldn't even get it out unless you wanted to have a wet arm all the way up to your elbow. And now that thing will not sink. What the heck? All the unethical people are going, you see, you can still get to the top.
Hey, there you go. See it, it's hydrating.
Oh, now it's finally.
Not really.
Not really.
There it goes. There it goes. There it goes.
All right, throw the other one in there. I think I failed at this one.
Oh, it's much more buoyant.
It's much more buoyant. Thank you, Becky, for playing. I appreciate it. You can just leave it there. Yeah, we're good. All right, we'll come back and we'll do our last one at the end of class.
This object lesson, Will, was be ready for anything in real estate.
Right.
Even if it's against the laws of physics, just be ready for anything.
Will?
Oh my. Yes, Will. Go ahead. Yeah.
Hey, I want to know if anybody else besides me guessed both. And if so, what do we get credit for?
Wow. Really? That's phenomenal. That, I mean, I didn't even know that after all the lab experiments. Gosh dang it. I got to figure that out. Next time I'm going to stuff that thing with some lead.
Will,
yeah,
I'm not getting an answer to my question.
So Bob Richards, Sally Shannon, obviously Tom. I'm just kind of running through here. There's actually multiple people have said both.
Really?
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe. All of which were after mine.
All of which were after Tom. Tom gets the dried out peeled orange. Tom, congratulations, Tom. You get the dried out peeled orange.
Yeah. Bob Richards, you really did confess, right? You really did. I don't see the chat. You really did say that? You said both?
You did. Yeah. So did Tom. Sally Shannon did.
Sally Shannon. Wow. Sally too. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll tell you what. I got a few giveaways here. I'll send them to you. Okay. Just for playing along. There you go. Okay. I got something for you.
I like Dennis' comment. We should stick to drinking games. Best comment of the day.
All right, maybe so. Okay, Mark, let's go to one of our first. We're gonna debate one of our first case studies. Will you go to page 23? And we're on the home stretch here, guys. Just page 23. Make sure I can see what you're looking at here. Yeah, this is in Article 1. Okay, so let's read this together. Then we'll do, Joe, we'll do just a quick, let's do 3-minute breakout, okay? On the next one. Okay, so let's take just a minute and should I read it to you? No, you can just read it, right? Okay, go ahead and read that, guys. Case number 1. Okay, Joe, go ahead and break us out. What's interesting is we're ending up in the same groups, aren't we?
We are.
Okay.
Yeah, I figured out how to make that work.
Okay, that's fine. Great. All right. Okay, welcome back. So, all right. Bob, bad realtor Bob. Talk about an example of someone who should have an ethics violation. Bob kind of, we probably suspect that Bob intentionally told the seller it was worth less, right? He may have intentionally done that because he wanted to buy it, right? And then he submits an offer and then even threatens him and says, hey, if you don't take my offer, you still owe me a commission. I think big picture here is, have you ever wanted to buy a listing, and what's the right way to do it? Have you ever wanted to buy a property you saw and you wanted to be the buyer personally for a listing or a potential listing? And if so, what's the proper way of doing it? But before we get to that, let's answer these questions. Do you think Bob is in violation of a code? Of course he is, right? But which one? So, and this is carefully phrased, so you might be tempted to say B and C, but it's actually C. C is the right answer. Bob clearly put his own interest above his clients, which is not only a violation of the Code of Ethics, but a violation of our agency duties.
Right.
But the way that B is written, it says it prohibits realtors from buying property listed with them. Actually, it doesn't prohibit that. But what's the problem with this one, Mark? You want to, I mean, can we be a listing agent and the buyer on a property we have listed?
Let's ask the group, because we talked about that in my breakouts. Let's ask for audience participation here.
Yeah, okay. Socratic method. I love it. We're back in law school. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you think? Can you buy your own listing?
No, it can't be listed it cannot be listed for sale if you are the buyer.
I mean, how do you, yeah, Bob, thank you. How do you represent a seller and be their fiduciary when you're the buyer? How would you do that? Yeah, can't do it. Any other comments? Go ahead.
Well, let me say something about that. What if you had a property that you listed and it was on the market for quite a while, not something where you were trying to buy it, right immediately, but then decided, hey, you know what, this might be a good property for me to own as a rental property or something. Could you not then go and say, hey, look, hasn't sold, I'm happy to buy it from you? I mean, just maybe I'm wrong, but that seems like it'd be okay.
The answer is no, because you have competing interests. You represent you, and you also represent the seller, which you cannot do. You'd have to release the listing first, so it's no longer listed, and then you could approach the seller about buying it.
Okay, and that's fine. Yeah, I assumed you'd maybe need to do that, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, I would go even further and ask the seller for a termination of agency, and make sure going forward as the buyer that transaction was completely above board, at or above appraisal, those types of things.
Yeah,
I think that's the conflict is if you're setting the price and then you're going to, I mean, first of all, you can't do it. But if you're setting the price and then just like Bob did in this example, the price was obviously low. So if you decide to buy it, I bought a house, somebody wanted me to list it, and then I decided to flip it, and we got an appraisal for it. And then I made an offer. I never did list it, but I made an offer at an appraisal price so that I didn't come up with the price.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
When I did this years ago, my broker also required me to put a disclosure signed by the seller that I was intending to purchase it with the intent of reselling it in the future at a profit. So the seller was acknowledging that I could possibly make money on this, and that they were okay with selling it at the current price, and that I obviously could profit in the future from it. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was a good thing to put in there, and I've encouraged that in a sense, because that's what the complaint usually is that comes back is you didn't have my interests at heart, you took advantage of me, and you made a profit at my expense.
Right. Yeah, well said. I mean, look, all of us on this call, I mean, how many of you purchased properties, I guess, were they listed with our company? Maybe look, we're often buyers. So, but how often has it been listed with our company, or has it been a listing that you wanted? I think that's probably a little bit more rare, but to what Greg was saying is he's saying, like, maybe I become interested in this property because, I mean, it's not selling, it's available. Maybe the price has been reduced. I think about it a little bit more, and I'm kind of liking this property a little bit, but boy, it makes it, I tell you what, if a listing like bad agent Bob here, he intentionally told the seller that was worth a number. It almost seems like he did that with a strategy to be the buyer all along.
Right.
So the scrutiny we would come under as a listing agent is if you've done everything you can to generate a bona fide offer from all the buyers that are, out there in the buyer pool, or have you somehow squashed other offers? We saw this going on, in the short sell days where, offers were kind of pushed away and, we got really creative. I'm not saying we, but unfortunately bad realtors were kind of cooking the process a little and making sure that conveniently their family is the one who bought the property, or a buyer, or a brother or something like this, a relative was the one ending up with these properties. So it's akin to that. Where's the loyalty to the client, loyalty to the seller? We've got a couple more to read here. So let's thank you for all your participation. I really appreciate that. Let's go to page, I think this is 24 and 26 in your handout. This is Article 1, Case Study 2. I think this is going to be really good for some of our smaller markets, St. George, Moab, Wasatch Back, Logan. This will be really good for that. So let's go ahead and read that. And then Joe, in a minute, we'll do a breakout for the same amount of time, about 3 minutes. So go ahead and read that. While you guys are doing that, I've seen the complaint on that one. The UAR puts together a manual that has here. I'll show you, not UAR, but National Association of Realtors. Can you guys see that? How thick this is? It's not just the Code of Ethics, but it's also got the precedences of the cases. And this is very similar to a case. And it's kind of akin to what we were talking about before when we've got a listing agent with an offer, right? So, okay, let's break out into our groups. I kind of like someone taking a real quick second to reset the facts of what the case is in your group, and then answer the questions below, and we can talk more about it when you come back, okay? Clearly, we're talking about variable commissions, moving commissions, negotiating commissions, the timing of that. Is it okay? Is it ethical? What kind of disclosure is needed? So this is a pretty good one, right? Okay, Joe, go ahead and send us to breakout.
How much time, my friend?
Let's do 3 minutes again.
You got it.
Joe, we were still in the middle of discussing them.
Will just said 3 minutes.
I mean, now we'll never know.
Will said 3 minutes. Take it up with Will.
Yeah. All right. Welcome back, guys. Hopefully you're still in the midst of critical thinking. So let's just set the stage a little bit here. Can the listing agent change his commission in the middle of the negotiation of the offer? Is it okay to do that? Yeah, you know what I always remember? There's no rule or law that says you can't get paid less. Okay, if you want to get paid less, you can do that anytime you want. You can even be free if you want. If the agent took the listing and already agreed to a lower fee when he took the listing, does that have to be disclosed?
Yes, it's right on the listing agreement as a variable rate.
Right.
On the listing agreement.
So if you said, I'll take a little less if I bring the buyer, we don't have to pay a co-broker, then that has to be disclosed. So in this case, it happens kind of at the moment of negotiation. So does the agent need to contact the other side and say, hey, I'm reducing my fee. You should know that. What do you think? You're like, I don't know. I don't know the answer. Tell us. Neurons waiting. Mark,
I would say yes, Will.
Go ahead. Okay.
I would say yes because you're changing what was published in the co-op agreement in the MLS.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
I mean,
I think this is one that feels uncomfortable, and it was uncomfortable in our group because it didn't feel right. It didn't feel fair for the agent to be able to reduce their listing commission. But the answer under the code is yes, the agent can reduce the listing commission, and the agent doesn't have to disclose this sudden pop-up of a dual commission or variable commission arrangement. This might be an instance where we say, yes, the code doesn't prohibit it, but it doesn't feel right, and maybe it's appropriate to disclose. But there's nothing wrong with doing what he did.
But he would have to have renegotiated the commission with the seller prior to presenting both offers. Is that correct? So, I mean, I initially checked B. I thought B was the answer. And yet the question says at the time he presents the two offers. So then I switched back to A thinking, you know, if he presents them at the same time, he can't do that.
Yeah, you know, Chrissy, let's talk about the timing of this. Do you think it's interesting in that third paragraph where it's the seller who says, hey, will you reduce your commission? Because I think more often it's going to be the agent who says, I've got an idea. I got an idea on how you can take my buyer's offer. You don't think so? Tom shaking his head. I mean, I don't know what the percentages would be, but somehow it's convenient for this agent to say the seller brought it up, you know, instead of the agent suggesting, I know how I can differentiate the offers and I'll agree to lower a little bit of my commission in order to get, you know, because winning the other side is still more than only half the side. You know, one side is one payment and then you get a little bit more. So I just think that's interesting that the seller is the one who brings it up, because to Chrissy's point, you're talking about the timing of this. And I think that's interesting and kind of convenient. Anyone else see that, or am I alone? I'm alone. Okay. No, Will, you're the only one. But I just think that's a little convenient, because it seems like there are times when agents have agreed verbally to these things. Okay. They didn't disclose it on the MLS like they were supposed to. In comes the offer, and then they go with the listing agent's offer because it nets the seller more, and the other side never knew what they're competing against. So now, Peter, I know you have your hand up, and you know, we imagine a pyramid: laws, rules, you know, ethics, morals, values, and then, you know, there's this little pinnacle at the top. And I really like what Peter said about picking up the phone and disclosing to the other side that, hey, just so you know, I mean, I have agreed to reduce my commission on this so that you're aware. I mean, if this would have happened previous to negotiation, it would have been on the MLS and you would have known. So, you know, that's like Mark said, it feels very uncomfortable to say, well, the code allows it, but maybe that's not our process.
Hey, Will.
Yeah.
You go back to the preamble of the entire code of ethics.
Yep.
It's the golden rule. Would you like that done unto you? You know?
Yeah, good point.
So if you actually think of that and your answer is clear there, that is sucked to be on the other end of that. So if you feel like that would hurt if somebody did it to you, then yes, I should pick up the phone and probably let the other party know.
Kevin, that's the second best thing I've ever heard. Oh, I love our team. I think that's excellent, Kevin. I mean, nobody on this call would say, oh yeah, that's completely fine with me. I mean, I think your buyer deserves to understand. You deserve to understand. And I have to say something that came up about a month ago. I'm not going to say names, but one of our own listing agents had agreed to a compensation reduction if he didn't have to pay a co-broker. Okay. He agreed to that. And it was put on the MLS as a variable commission. Another agent in our company wrote an offer, and I think he overlooked the fact of this variable commission. So our listing agent said, I'll tell you what, why don't we just split the total commission? And I thought that was amazing. I didn't have to suggest it. I didn't even bring it up. But the listing agent said, why don't we just look, here's the total commission. So it makes your offer just as is on equal playing field as the listing agent's offer. And I thought that was pretty stand-up thing for that listing agent to do. And I commended him for that. And so, you know, there sometimes it's not ethic, you know, like the ethics is silent. It doesn't mean that that's how we always practice, right? So good point. All right, you want to do another one? We're on the home stretch here. We only have time for maybe two more, but let's go to, which one are we doing next? Is this the,
we're doing Article 2, Study 1.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Let's do that one. So, Joe, get ready for another breakout. This is on page 27, Article 2, Case Study 1. I believe this has to do with histories, expenses, and
that's right.
What may have showed up. Yeah, what showed up in expenses. So the buyer is trying to contemplate what their income would be. They're relying on information from the other side, and they're going to suggest, I think, that this information was inaccurate, therefore damaging to them, and they want to be made whole. So what do we do about that? And so let's go ahead and break out.
Can we do 5 minutes so Lance doesn't yell at me, Will?
All right, let's do 5 minutes. Okay.
I'll still find a reason.
because he got cut off?
No, I squeaked in my last words just under the radar. Thank you, Joe.
No.
True story.
So now Mark was cut off.
We just barely got.
This is a pretty good one. My goodness. Can I just ask, what in the world is Ron doing preparing a prospectus of expenses? Like, no, I can't. Tess is going, no, you can't ask that. You know, years and years and years ago, matter of fact, it was Dave Johnson. This is going back like 25 years ago. He's like, I know it's tempting to stand on the back deck and someone says, hey, where's the property line? And you go, oh, you see the fence? You know, like, you should never be the source. Like, you know, my agent told me what the expenses of this motel were. So did you wonder that? Like, why is the agent the one preparing the prospectus? Am I reading this case right? That the agent is the one who did this?
I'll contribute here. I think there's some nuance here that matters. I think it's okay that he's preparing the prospectus, but what he's doing that I think is wrong is that he is advising on what is and is not important for disclosure. And
so like a secretarial service of putting it together per se, gathering it is one thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's his job, is to present the property in its best light and present some, because really somebody's buying a financial tool, right, for themselves. And so when you're doing that, it's your job to present that in a way that's meaningful, but it's definitely not your job to advise somebody what to include and not to include. So
I would have to say that there's probably 5% of realtors that can prepare an accurate pro forma for anyone. And it's akin to providing legal advice when you are not an attorney. I don't think the agent should be preparing anything like that unless he's an accountant or has the training to do so.
Agree 100%. There's too many things to get misinterpreted.
Yeah, we'll become a target, won't we? I mean, you know, because the scrutiny will be pointed at us. It's not what we want. It's not our role. It's not our job. We can point people to where they get the information to verify on their own, but to go and make statements about what these expenses are. What did you think about this? Do you think it was intentional to remove the maid service as an expense because someone did it themselves in order to justify a higher price? Does it have a feeling that it was intentional?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of this is kind of like you get down to the heart of the matter, and
you know, honestly, we see this in some of the commercial business dealings, right? What we don't want are agents manipulating the numbers with the seller, convincing them to write it as more of an owner occupied type business, an owner ran business, as opposed to an absentee business. Those have completely different numbers, right? But in theory, it should be the same investment. If you don't have the housekeeping expense, you're doing it yourself, it's still a cost. There's still part of the business that needs to be accounted for if someone's buying it from out of state. So I think having that in there, I mean, if you have a buyer that's buying a motel as an example, and it is an owner occupied family run business, then it needs to make sure it's very clear that there's some items are maybe not included in the financials because it's been family owned and family run that they might need to account for in their financial modeling.
Or manipulating vacancy rates.
Right.
I just think it would be safe if you're on the buyer side, it needs to be done by a third party. If we're looking for HOA information, we go to the HOA company that's running it. But I just think a third party, I would refer it to a third party to do the audit for it.
Well, years ago when I was doing commercial real estate, we used to laugh because especially if a business was involved, because there would be the books, the books they show the prospective buyer, the difference between those and what they show the IRS, and then what the business is actually doing. And you never knew which set of books you were looking at.
You may want to look at the IRS because they're going to get nailed on that one. Tougher to manipulate. Ask for tax returns.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, look, I agree, guys. Thank you for that input. Look, we only have a few more minutes left. Hey, Mark, let's do a little just spontaneity here. We only have time for maybe one more. Which case should we do?
What was the answer on that? What was the answer on the last one?
Oh, the answers here. I can give them to you.
B and A.
There you go.
Yeah, this one's centered around Ron's failure to disclose pertinent facts.
Yeah. So B and A, yeah, financial reasonably should be known, relevant, and significant is number 2. So B and A. So pick one, Mark. Which one should we do? We've got 3 left that we were talking about. I'm almost wondering if we should do the one with the listing expiration. But what do you?
Yeah, I like that one too. Which one was that?
It's
that 16.
Yeah, 16.
It's Article 16.
Let's do that one really quick, guys. Let's go. Yeah, let's. It's on page 37. It's Article 16, case study number 1.
Right.
This has to do with: do we have to disclose expiration of a listing? So when our listing contract expires to another party or another agent. So Joe, let's just do 5 minutes and debate this one and come back.
All right, here we go.
Now, in solving this crisis, this body cannot and will not go through a drawn-out, unpredictable process sought by the minority leader. It risks the full faith and credit of the United States. To do this through reconciliation requires ping-ponging separate bills back from the Senate and the House. It's uncharted waters.
I was cut off on that one.
That's terrible. I wish I could tell you I was doing it on purpose.
What were you saying, Lance? Finish your thought.
Not now. There's too many people. Put me on the spot, Todd.
When were you ever shy, Lance?
All right.
Well, you know, I mean, all I was saying is, I'll say this, in item 4, all I was saying is there's nothing that prohibits an agent from hanging the phone up on another agent. We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that.
So you're not speaking from experience, or is that a good friend of yours, Lance, that told? No. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Right. Okay. All right, Mark, take the lead on this one. Let me see if I got the stage right. Tony is the owner. My panel had to help me with this one. Laura is the second agent on scene. Sue is the current listing agent, and Fred is a friend who's trying to help Tony. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Mark, take this one away.
Sure. Laura called Sue to ask her about the nature and expiration time of the listing agreement, and Sue refused to give her that information. And so Laura then ultimately called Tony directly. The first question, what standard of practice under Article 16 applies? There's at least 8. No, there are 20 standards of practice under Article 16. So unless you're as familiar with them as maybe Will and I, you wouldn't know that it's 16.4, soliciting others' clients, deals with that situation directly. Was Laura in violation of Article 16? Question number 2. Remember, Laura called Sue and asked Sue specifically, what's the nature of the listing and when does it expire? Sue would not give her that information. And Laura subsequently called Tony. So was she in violation? No. Laura followed the exact procedure. If you read 16-4, she followed the exact procedure that's prescribed. What was Laura's obligation? Was it to not solicit Sue's listings under any circumstances? Was it no obligation at all? She could solicit Sue's listings? No. 16.4 again dictates that Laura's obligation was not to solicit Sue's listing unless Sue refused to tell Laura the nature and expiration date of the listing. This one, number 4, is kind of interesting. Is Sue in violation of Article 16? Letter of the article? No, she's not in violation of Article 16. She does not have to give that requested information. She could hang up on her, as Lance suggested.
Yes. Oh, wait, sorry. Oh, sorry, I mute.
But my breakout group got back to Kevin's golden rule in the preamble of the code. Is that something you would want to have happen to you? By hanging up, you are giving that realtor permission to contact your client under standard of practice 16-4, and you're, somewhat losing control of that conversation. At the end of the day, not a good idea to not communicate that information.
Very good. Very good. Okay, guys, we're on the home stretch. Can I have you just look at some of the professional courtesies? There's these pathways to professionalism. I know I'm asking a lot here, but maybe when the class is over at some point, you can go back and look at these tips. Notice on page 45, I think. Yeah, 45, respect for property. Take a look at that and remind yourself of some of those tips. There's respect to public and respect to peers. What's being said here is that these don't show up in a code of ethics. They're not specifically mentioned in licensing rule, but they're really important for us as professionals. So, okay, I'm ready for my next participants, wherever they are. Ange? We're ready. Okay, here, let me turn. Final thing, guys. Final thing. Okay, say hi to Shane. Shane Dodge. And Peter, who's Utah Cribs. Okay, so Angie, I need your help. Okay, what you're gonna do is stand in the center with your back, let's go about right there, and keep your feet inside. If you can't, can you guys see the orange on the ground? There you go. Okay, so they're standing inside these lines. Okay, now you stand back like this and go ahead and lock arms. There you go. Okay. This guy's really tall. Now don't flip anybody. Okay.
Shane, come on.
Okay, now, Ange, hold that one, and I'll hold this one. Okay, so the idea here is that you're gonna have to, I gotta put it outside their reach. So probably at the end here, Ange, like right at the end of maybe about right there. Okay, so let's keep it right there. I'll do the same on this side. Can everybody see? Don't flip me. Okay. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to have to work together to reach the $10 bill. You guys figure it out. Now, you can each have one, but you're going to have to work together to do that. Go ahead.
Okay, we'll go my way first. So
don't stand outside the line.
So you walk backwards, and I'll walk forwards. Is it easy to walk backwards?
Okay, so Peter's walking backwards.
Now, can you lean back a little bit?
Yeah! Okay, now come forward. Keep inside the line. Here. Got it. Hey. $10 bill. You can keep it.
Thanks for lunch, Will.
Okay. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Clearly, the idea of this object lesson was to work together and cooperate, stay within the boundaries of the rules and the laws and the ethics, respect your peer, and work together. And if you do so, not only you build respect from the trust in your clients, but you'll build respect in your coworkers. And this is the higher way. This is the ethical way. Thank you so much for joining me today. The class is now concluded. I appreciate all of you, love each one of you, pray for your success and well-being. On behalf of all of the staff and managers at Berkshire Hathaway, the brokers, we love you and are so proud of you. You are very ethical, honest, high character individuals. Let's go out there and find someone who needs our help, because there's plenty of people who need you. Okay? Thanks, you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Nice job, Will.
Good job, Will.
Thank you.
Can I get $10 too?
I actually have a few left over.
In some strange way, Will, your orange object lesson was better the way it turned out than how you put it. It was just all around a better experience.
It turned out good?
Thanks much, Will. Good job.
Thanks, Will.
You're welcome, you guys. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Will. Great.